Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football Dill. Alabama heading on the road, playing Georgia. Both of these football teams coming off byes, and I always appreciate that. We're gonna look at two of the best teams in the country. I want to see best on best. Now, there's a million different ways that you can break down this football game. The way I would start is this is an opportunity to learn about both of these football teams and just how dangerous they can be in 2025. Going to get a little bit nitty gritty, but I also want to talk about some really big matchups in this one as well. Before we do, and as always, Alabama fans, Georgia fans, y'all let it fly in the comment section. I have a feeling the comment section about to get hot. Wouldn't want to have it any other way. The amount of support and the amount of feedback and engagement that y'all are throwing in the comment section been amazing. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Let it rip in the comment section. We'll get nitty gritty and we'll talk about some matchups that we think are interesting. I want to start with this. What quarterback do you trust more in this football game Saturday night?
I think at this point it's got to be Gunner, mainly because I've seen him go out there and will his team to a win in a hostile road environment. And I feel like both teams have now played that situation a little bit. Alabama at Florida State, a Florida State team that is good. So, I'm not I'm over this, oh, Bama sucks because they lost to Florida State.
Agreed.
It wasn't a great performance by Alabama, obviously. But I just think you look at the way Gunner Stockton played in that Tennessee game, that to me, I got the confidence now in him.
Here's the thing.
Ty Simpson, it wasn't his fault that Florida State beat Alabama, but he wasn't exactly the solution either. Gunner Stockton, he was very much part of the solution.
So here's the way I look at these quarterbacks, man. And it starts with this. What quarterback do I trust more in this football game? It has to be Gunner Stockton because, like you said, you saw him go on the road against Tennessee and will his team to a victory. You didn't see that from Ty Simpson on the road in Tallahassee. Now, with that being said, a huge factor in this game is I might like Ty Simpson better as just a pure thrower of the football. When you keep Ty Simpson clean and it's good around him, he can be elite. In fact, that's kind of what we've seen the last 2 weeks against Wisconsin, against Louisiana. The big question here is, can Georgia get him off his spot? They'll want to know a crazy stat heading into this one. Georgia's defense, 1.7% sack rate. That is 125th in the country. I think the Georgia fans that follow this football team closely know the biggest question we have with Georgia, who's impacting the passer? In years past, we've seen some absolutely dynamite pass rushers. In fact, you had some of those guys last year. Guys like Jalen Walker, guys like Michael Williams. You haven't really seen that answer. Outside of Kristen Miller on the inside, there's nobody that's grabbing your attention, and you're looking at it and saying, hey, I don't think there's a ton of confidence with these Alabama offensive tackles, especially Wilkin Formby. But I'd say the same thing for Caden Proctor. He was not great against Florida State a couple of weeks ago.
But I would have said that about Tennessee's tackles. You look at what Tennessee was doing last year in pass protection, they stunk. They could run the ball and they could play physical. I mean, is Lance Hurd, did he just get that much better? Is Jesse Perry a backup right tackle?
I think Lance Hurd's a dog.
Maybe. Did Jesse Perry backup right tackle for Tennessee suddenly emerge as an elite tackle player?
Sure.
That to me is the question. I'm kind of concerned for this Georgia defensive line because if you can't affect this Alabama offense, it really can sing. Kalen DeBoer's got it going. The wide receivers are really, really good. Jeremy Bernard, to me, is playing a real elite guy next to Ryan Williams now. And you still got other guys like Lotier Brooks and some other players.
Look, when you keep Ty Simpson clean, that's kind of what you're saying. You started running down the whole Alabama depth chart, so we appreciate that. But here's the storyline right here. It's not just the eyeball test. The stats back it up too. When Ty Simpson is clean on the year, Dill, 80% completion thrower, 9 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. When he's under pressure, mostly coming from that Florida State game, that completion percentage drops to 50%. The biggest question is, hey, who on Georgia is going to step up? Is it going to be Chris Cole? Is it going to be a guy like Gabe Harris? You got to find somebody to get.
Now, Chris Cole, I will say, should be able to be a problem for these tackles because their athleticism is obviously the issue with both Wilkin Formby and Caden Proctor. Chris Cole, when he's going, is a very smooth athlete, really, really good off the ball. He's the guy. I'm kind of with you. I look at a Gabe Harris, probably more of a power rusher at this point in his career. I don't know that you're winning with power against these two big dogs. Like, I want to see Chris Cole rip it up, be a Ferrari.
He needs to, Dill. I don't think Georgia can win this. Well, I shouldn't say I don't think Georgia can win this football game. It gets a heck of a lot harder to win this football game if you can't impact Ty Simpson, because he's going to make you pay. Here's the other question. Does Georgia decide to include these off-ball linebackers as pass rushers? Right? Hey, you might have question marks about the front four getting home. When you're talking about linebackers like Raylan Wilson and C.J. Allen, they can provide value. Now, here's the question. All right, if we do incorporate these linebackers in some blitz packages, do we trust these Georgia defensive backs that had a tough game against Tennessee to deal with these Alabama wide receivers on the outside? Because, look, it's all fun to talk about blitzing. Well, then you got one-on-one matchups on the outside, and Alabama's wide receiver, and they got a million different guys that can make you pay. Number one, what do you think Kirby Smart's approach is going to be in terms of trying to affect Ty Simpson? And if you do get some one-on-one matchups on the outside, do you trust Alabama's wide receivers or Georgia's defensive backs in that one?
I mean, I think if I'm Kirby Smart, I think you got to die trying to affect Ty Simpson.
I think so.
I've just seen too much from him. And frankly, Kalen DeBoer as a coach, maybe it's like every one of his quarterbacks. If you've been able to keep his quarterbacks clean, he's always been pretty effective. I think Alabama does have wide receivers. That's certainly scary. And yeah, you'll have to take your chances and deal with Ryan Williams making a play like he was able to make a couple of those last year. But you can't let Ty Simpson just rip you apart.
I could not agree more. And the last thing is, can Alabama find the run game?
And not for nothing, but like, and as Ty Simpson, can he go be big time in those moments where he is under pressure? Because against Florida State, there probably weren't enough of him stepping up and making big time NFL plays.
Yeah,
so go force him to do it.
You're forcing Ty Simpson to hang in the pocket, because that was not a strong suit from Ty Simpson's performance against Florida State. Last thing that I'm looking at here is whenever you're going on the road into a hostile environment like you're going to see in Athens, Georgia, man, running the football is huge, especially when you have question marks about your tackles holding up in pass protection. I'm not saying you have to go run the football for 200 yards in this one, but you want to run the football a little bit better than what you've done so far in 2025. Can Alabama run the football against Georgia?
Jam Miller. I don't know if Jam's coming back. Kalen DeBoer has kind of kept it a little tight. I have to imagine he probably is. I feel like that's what we've been hearing all offseason, that this was kind of the targeted game, if you will. And he'd make a huge difference because, frankly, maybe part of it's on the offensive line. They are not getting nearly enough from that running back spot if I'm an Alabama.
I totally agree. Jam Miller is comfortably the best running back in this room, and having Jam Miller healthy for this one seems really, really important, just for some semblance of the run game. And then the other one is like, all right, how did they use Ty Simpson in the run game as well? Because he's an athlete. All right, let's flip the sides here. I think the big question is now Georgia holding up in pass protection versus an Alabama pass rush. You go first.
Another pass rush unit that's underperforming what you got in terms of your pure talent. And Kwarusa, he's coming alive a little bit. I will say, I've seen him get after it a bit and make some plays.
What about Yanza? I think he was one of the more impressive pass rushes against Wisconsin. And that's the story, because
Thompson's a tough one to take like a ton of stock into. It's like, again, like they really did struggle to beat up Florida State. And Florida State, like I know, was running the ball mostly. But this is going back last year too. You kind of got the same cast. Are these guys gonna bring themselves to the fore, if you will, and start playing like 5-star players?
Because I'm looking at that right side, man, and like Georgia has not figured that out, right? They got some serious problems in pass protection on the right side of that offensive line. Do you have the guys to go on and take advantage of it?
Here's the other story. Healthy Ernest Green though, like mitigates a fair amount of that if he's like playing his best. Because
dude, it's just been such a roller coaster from this kid, man. I mean, there are games where he looks like a first-round NFL tackle, and then there are games where he has no business playing even for Georgia. What version of Ernest Green do you get? How healthy is? Those are all question marks that I have for Georgia. What about Georgia's run game? Because I look at this, and this is a fascinating one. This is probably where I should have led with. You got a chance to replicate a lot of the success that Florida State had running the football.
I was kind of thinking that, like, you see how bad quarterback runners have been able to hurt this Bama team over the past couple of years, and how much like misdirection's been able to hurt Alabama, because they have played with really bad eyes, it feels like at times. I'm looking at one guy, that's Zachariah Branch.
Yep.
How can you use him in the way that Florida State was using some of their, like a Danzy or a Jalen Lucas,
Yes.
those kind of like hybrid running back line or wide
You
receiver.
have all the pieces. You have all the pieces to replicate what Florida State did in the run game, which really gave Alabama some problems.
And I thought Georgia did a good job with a good creative rushing attack that was getting to the boundary at times, being able to
Yes.
work it into the middle at times. I really liked what they did against Tennessee, and I think some of those concepts can be effective against an Alabama team that, yeah, go prove that you have some discipline in the back end of your defense and that your eyes are good.
Yeah, and so yes, we can blame eyes, but I also think that's just such an aggressive. They want their linebackers firing, and when you want your linebackers firing, well, you get hurt on the boundary a little bit. Tim Keenan back is another. I mean, like
Huge.
Alabama's getting some guys back who are legitimate NFL dudes, and Tim Keenan's probably the most important guy they're going to get back, or ideally get back in this football game.
Because he would change so much in terms of like Alabama's ability to play with a bit of a lighter box, frankly, in terms of what he does eating up blocks and being able to be a force and let those linebackers play a little bit more clean. Because that was, again, a problem against that Florida State team. I think a really healthy Tim Keenan, because he's the only guy who I feel like really plays that role. Like, I like Smith, I like what he does. London Simmons played really well as a freshman. But in terms of Tim Keenan's like role, I don't know that you have a great replacement on this roster for what he's doing.
Yeah, he's going to be huge. Also, from a depth standpoint, just another really quality body you can rotate in a football game. And make no mistake about it, this is going to be a fourth quarter game. It's going to be body blows. You want to have another very capable body that you have in the rotation. I don't know why I put it like that, because Tim Keenan is much more than a rotational player for Alabama, but it helps. All right, Dale, let's get into the pick here. Georgia at home, 3.5-point favorites. I'll put you on the tee box first here.
I'm going to go Alabama. I think Alabama's ability to throw the ball in my huge concern for what this Georgia pass rush is. I just look like I like Georgia's DBs, but I don't see how they can play well enough if your pass rush is that anemic, like what it was against Tennessee. And again, I certainly have my questions about what this Alabama pass protection unit can be. And if Kirby can really blitz, like maybe dial up some schemes, like, scheme around. I guess what I'll say is like scheme around maybe their deficiencies and use those linebackers. I do wonder, is this Alabama unit going to be able to play a good, clean football game? Because we've seen their offensive line blow assignments and miss things. That to me is the question. But Kirby I feel like that's not what he wants to do, and he doesn't really deviate a ton from what he does defensively. So I'll go Alabama, because I think without a good front four pass rush, I think it's going to be hard to deal with Ty Simpson in those pass games.
I think that's a very fair pick. There are a lot of reasons to take Alabama in this game. I'm going to go Georgia. And the reason starts with what we said off the top. What quarterback do I trust? And you make no mistake about it. Whether Alabama jumps up to a 28-point lead or not, this game's going to come down to the fourth quarter. I feel very comfortable saying that. What quarterback do I trust more to come up with those plays? Like right now, it's Gunner Stockton. Dill, I go back, and this is more of a vibes pick from your boy here, because there's a lot of reasons from a matchup standpoint that you could be taking Alabama. I go back to how we saw Ty Simpson look when the moment was the biggest on the road at Florida State. Well, guess what? The environment's going to be a little bit more dialed up at night in Sanford Stadium.
Yeah, but I just look like, I don't know, can Georgia go be as effective in terms of like what they do to affect Ty Simpson?
Bill, you gave me your reason why you're taking. I ain't arguing with that. I am completely recognizing that.
Because I think we talk about the environment a little bit. We got to talk about the defense you play. That matters a lot more than the environment. And I'm not taking anything away from Sanford Stadium, but like,
okay, I'll have a question. Okay, then let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. You think Florida State's front seven's better than Georgia's? Regardless of what we've seen from Georgia in terms of like sack numbers, are you taking Florida State's front seven over Georgia's?
No, not talent-wise, but I do think, like, they played really aggressive, sending safeties, sending linebackers, and that to me was a big part of the issue that Bama dealt with. I don't know, is Georgia gonna play that way?
I'm gonna take the stand of I trust Glenn Schumann and Kirby Smart to play the way that best fits what this Georgia defense can do, and then I trust Gunner Stockton to come up and make a play in the fourth quarter. It's a vibes play, Dill. It's a vibes play. I think this Georgia team's a little bit more built to win in the big moments than Alabama right now. I'll take Georgia. You're on Alabama. Gonna be a really good one. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later.